actually have Anna Moyer, who's going to talk about her experience.
Being that I just graduated, I didn't know if I was more excited or bummed heading into my last camp. I was nervous and sad that my last year there was going to be full of change. We got a new youth pastor, they built a new worship center, and there was going to be new people sharing a cabin with us. But I had faith that God would make camp just as amazing and life-changing as it always is. That thing 2017 theme was anchored, as Justin said. We spent the entire week learning how to find our anchor in Christ through life's storms. We discussed how we often will rely on ourselves or other people or other things to fight through our battles instead of having faith in God that He's there to fight with us. The truth is, it's hard to rely on something that you can't see and don't always feel that it's there. It's difficult to trust that you may not always be right and that God has a bigger plan for you. Everyone is broken, or at least has a crack in them, and we learn that at prayer and share night. But God just meets you wherever you are and loves you. Everyone has more to their story than you can see. He doesn't love you any less because of your past. He doesn't stop loving you if you mess up. You're allowed to make mistakes. God isn't going to just be like, oh, nope, you did that same thing again, like, I'm done. No. He grants you the grace of a fresh start whenever you ask for one. He took our sin and He left it on the cross. You just have to have faith in Him. You don't have to trust that He knows what you have to trust that He knows what He's doing in your life. God is stronger than the world, and you don't have to be. And I can't stand here and say that I always follow that advice, because I don't. Heading into this next chapter of my life, I was nervous and scared that it was going to be hard to stay strong in my faith and would be taken away from the church community I've always known and surrounded by brand new temptations. I don't have all my life together. College is going to be hard. Change is really hard, and I'm going to have to make brand new friends and step outside of my comfort zone. But after this week, I have faith and know that I'm not fighting this battle alone. I'm anchored in Christ. He's what I need to stay grounded in the midst of all life's storms. He's what everyone needs in their lives. God doesn't abandon you. He isn't going to put you through anything you can't handle. And when He feels like you can't handle it, it's probably because He wants you to use His help. The band that played this year their name was Max Anthem, and one of their songs here said it best. It's time like these that my faith gets a little shaky. It's time like these that I don't know what to do. I say a prayer, but all my words sound so hollow. The only thing I know right now is I need a hero, someone to rescue me. I've been so broken and hopeless, drowning in oceans, so far away from home. I need a hero. God is your hero. God is my hero. He sent His only Son to save us from the brokenness and mistakes we have all made. God is my anchor, and He's in the boat through all my storms, and He's in yours too.
Thank you, Anna. Now we have Mr. Will Henshaw coming up.
So I also just graduated, and I'll be attending Purdue. This was actually my first year at camp. So, hey, you spell my name. But besides that, so coming to camp, I didn't know what to expect. I heard all these great things about it, how fun it was. And I joined this youth group a year ago, and I got the privilege 2 weeks before this camp to counsel at the middle school camp. And that was the first time that God really showed His presence to me. And so I was like, okay, this camp's gonna really just like mold that together. And it did. And one of the main themes that our speaker Scott talked about was anchored in trust, and just trusting that God has a plan for you, and trust that He knows what He's doing even when you don't know what you're doing. He knows what you're supposed to do even when you don't. And just trust that friends are there for you even when you might have a sticky situation with them or you get in a fight with them, that they will still be there for you. And trust that God has that path laid out for you of which way He wants you to follow. and that just trust in Him that He will make things better. And Scott brought up the story about Peter, where he was in the boat, and Jesus was there and said, "Take my hand, come out on the water." And Peter did that. And so if we just trust in Him to let Him take our hand and follow Him, He will make our path where we need to go. And Scott also said some of the truths that we hear might be hard to swallow, that we might not hear what we want to hear, but we need to hear them. And that those hard truths, we can't just dwell on them. We have to take them as a lesson and just move on. So, yeah.
All right. So one of the things we talked about at camp, or one of the days we talked about, was being anchored in Christ through trust. And I'm a little nervous. There were 2 nights that we really had to trust each other, and it was really special because we'd share things that we normally wouldn't share with each other, and it was a very special night for me. And one of the verses they used to represent trust is Matthew 14:25 through 31. And it says, "Early in the morning he came walking toward them on the sea, but when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, 'It's a ghost.' And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, 'Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid.' Peter answered to him, 'Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water.' He said, 'Come.' So Peter got out of the boat and started walking on the water and came toward Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened and beginning to sink. He cried out, 'Lord, save me.' Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, 'You of little faith, why do you doubt?'" And why that represents trust is because at that moment, Peter trusted God 100%, or trusted Jesus, my bad, 100%. But as he started going out there, he started losing trust in him, and he started to fall. And sometimes in life, there's truth that you want to hear, and then there's truth you don't want to hear. And sometimes the truth you don't want to hear is something that you're going to have to trust God, that He's going to get you through it. No matter what, you're going to trust Him, and He's going to be there for you. That's all I have.
Up next, I'm going to call up Emma Nolan and Taylor Moloa. They wore matching dresses, hats, and shoes today. It was planned.
So that thing to K16 was a blast. Some of the things that you saw in the video that we did were activities like paintball, archery tag, sky high, swimming, the aqua rocker, got a lot of bruises from that, paddleboarding and kayaking, and they even had crafts every day, which were amazing. My favorite, I think, was flower crowns. And but we can't forget worship. Worship, I think, was so great. The band that they had this year was Mass Anthem. Mass Anthem. And I could tell they just brought out a lot of faith in everybody who went up to the band. How they portrayed their faith through music just brought out others' faith so much. Something seen all throughout this camp is the flood of faith shown through worship, and people's faith was really powerful through many people. Had such little faith when they came to camp the first day, and I think over all week, by Friday, everyone was just up to the stage, hands up, praying was so powerful. And Taylor wants to.
Before camp, my faith was indecisive. Even though I sang and prayed with everyone, I never felt anything. I just went along with everything everyone else was doing. I think that I didn't believe because I was blaming myself for all the bad things that had happened to me and my family. I felt like I hated God for all the pain and I felt away from him. When I went to camp after the first day, it's hard to even explain how much love I felt for God then. I felt really weird. I felt goosebumps and butterflies in my stomach. I felt like my whole life was flipped over. When I was worshiping, I finally realized that I'd felt God in my presence. The only thing I'm thankful for is the leaders and the campers that came with me this year. One thing we did was have prayer and share, and I was really emotional because I felt like I didn't really think I could trust anyone. But as soon as I started talking, I realized that I'm not the only one that's alone in this world. I was so thankful that everyone was there for each other. So can we give a hand of applause to the leaders?
And last but not least, Brother Elion, come on up. Just talk down there.
All right. Morning. As Justin said, my name is Elian Cedillo. Okay, so love. What is love to you? Sometimes love can often be described as a passion between one person among another. This past week at camp, we learned about being anchored in love, God's love. Having God's love as an anchor is extraordinary because no matter how lonely you feel or seem, God's love will always be there for you. As we all know, God's love was shown by sending his own son to die for our own sins, as said in 1 John chapter 4, verse 10. And love consists in this, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his own son as an atoning sacrifice for our own sins. In the words of Christ, we are able to love because of him. 1 John chapter 4, verse 19. We love because he first loved us, as though in time Jesus never failed to show his love, as he also told others to love each other. John chapter 13, verse 34. A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. God's love is through everyone. Through the world, God is able to show his love from one person to another. While at camp this past week, I had many experiences of love from one person to another. One night, we were doing something that involved having a paper, a fruit. Mine happened to have the word peace on it. As Justin said, we would be giving it out to this passion fruit to whom we believed it best described. God's love had called me to believe that it had best described one of our campers, Josh Klingman. As brothers of Christ, the love was there that night between him and I. As I had no words to describe why he was the receiver of the peace fruit, I had surely known it best belonged to him. The joy I saw from him was something unbearable. There was another night after we had introduced our graduated seniors, which there was a time after where we were able to pray with each other. That night, I had prayed for almost as much as 15 different students, but the number isn't what I want to talk about. What I do is how amazing it was that no one seemed not to have the same prayer, but the love for everyone there was just very enormous. And I thought that was just amazing because, like, I don't know. I mean, obviously we should love God, but they showed it. Like, I could see it through them, and as they prayed, I could hear it through their voice. Sometimes love can be a very powerful word and is often misused in many ways, but with God, it can never be misused. Without God, there wouldn't be love, and without love, there wouldn't be God.